urgent. Surprising revelations about Biden. No one expected this. Since assuming the presidency of the United States, Joe Biden has been the subject of countless speculations, debates, and controversies. Whether it's his progressive policies, diplomatic stance, or economic decisions, the American leader is always in the spotlight. However, what we've just discovered about the advice he's been receiving may leave the world bewildered. Just imagine, behind the scenes at the White House, where the most important decisions are made, an influential advisor made an unexpected recommendation about Joe Biden. See it all now.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland. He is the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee and was the lead impeachment manager for the second Trump impeachment trial. Congressman, this situation, which really kind of carried us for the last few bits of our conversation around accountability, is something very, very important. It was something you emphasized a lot during the impeachment trials. It is something you have emphasized as recently as a few weeks ago, and all the noise around the judges. How do you assess the accountability for Donald Trump versus the rest of us?
Well, let's start with the rest of us, because I know that there's so many people in the country who are just enraged about Trump's Houdini-like ability to get out of all these scrapes. But when you actually bear down on it, there's a lot of accountability that is in place, like with the lawyers, like with Eastman, like with Chesbrough. I mean, these people have fundamentally endangered their careers. Even with Trump, I mean, he is an adjudicated rapist at this point, an adjudicated defamer of women in New York City. He also has this $500 million price tag outstanding in debt that he owes for having engaged in banking fraud and insurance fraud. The problem is that people have seen these outrages and injustices committed over the years, and the justice system moves slowly because we believe in due process. Right. And people have an opportunity to be heard and so on. But accountability is coming every single day, and the bottom has fallen out on Donald Trump. He is going down in court. And whether it happens before the election or after, to me, it doesn't make that much of a difference because the public can see what he actually did.
It doesn't make that much of, go ahead, Alicia.
Well, I was just going to say, while there is this quest for accountability from Donald Trump, you have this entire sideshow that is going on with House Republicans. Finally, it seems Representative Comer is admitting that he has no evidence in his impeachment inquiry into President Biden, though he has invited President Biden to testify in an impeachment probe. I'm not certain how both things can be true at the same time. Riddle me that. Your sense, is this finally headed towards its ultimate dead end?
Yeah, I mean, it ends not with a bang, but with a whimper. I think they're calling for Joe Biden to come testify and invited him. I think I would recommend that he RSVP no to that. I mean, there have been 20 witnesses who come in. Each one is supposed to be the star witness, the breakthrough witness, and they always turn out to be a Chinese spy, a Russian spy, a guy who's in prison testifying from behind bars because he has defrauded Indian tribes out of tens of millions of dollars. And none of them has laid a glove on Joe Biden because he hasn't done anything wrong. And that has been the overwhelming weight of the evidence. So I think this is the most colossal and spectacular failure in the history of congressional investigations. And it's an absolute embarrassment to the GOP. And I think it's one of the reasons that all these Republicans are headed for the exit, including most recently Ken Buck and Representative Gallagher. They've said they've had enough. They're down to a 1-vote margin. It's quite plausible if we get one Republican to, change his or her baseball cap, that we could end up in the majority before this the wreckage of a Congress is over.
It is that what you just described is it's just such a crazy scenario, but it's true. Literally, there's one sane Republican in the House of Representatives. Knock on the Democrats' door when y'all get back, and perhaps we can see a Speaker Jeffries sooner than later. Congressman, you made the point that that whether Donald Trump goes to trial and is convicted before or after, it doesn't matter because the people will be able to see it. But there's a real chance that Donald Trump could win re-election. I think the Biden campaign has more money. The Biden campaign has a better message. They definitely have a better candidate, a better record. Like they've done real tangible things for the American people, from internet access to expanding childcare, infrastructure week that happened. Donald Trump was promising it for 4 years. Still ain't seen it under him, but Joe Biden brought us infrastructure week. But even still, there are people out there supporting Donald Trump. And so what happens if, in fact, he wins when you have things like Comer saying, now they've moved from, we want to hear Biden testify, and, either way, we're just going to recommend some criminal liability over onto the Justice Department in the hopes that Trump wins and takes it up. Like this. It's diabolical.
A criminal referral requires a crime. If they'd found a crime, they would be impeaching him for it. They didn't find any crime. The only crimes we've identified are by their own witnesses all over the country. I mean, one of the guys is a Chinese intelligence asset who's on the run from American justice. And then, of course, the whole thing started with this guy, Alexander Smirnov, who just repeated lies that were being told by Rudy Giuliani. And we got Rudy Giuliani's right-hand man, Lev Parnas, to come in to say they did everything they could all over Europe, all over the world to find some dirt on Joe Biden, and they couldn't find it because there's nothing there. And Parnas, who was, Giuliani's alter ego, said it's time to call off the whole wild goose chase.
So, Congressman, I want to shift gears a little bit because I want to step up the level of accountability here in this narrative. You had, in the last few days, the Trump campaign and Trump himself putting out a violent image of President Biden. NBC, Megan Lebowitz reporting Trump sharing this video image depicting Biden tied up in the back of a pickup truck. The Biden campaign responded to this violent Truth Social post, noting this image from Donald Trump is the type of crap you post when you're calling for a bloodbath or when you tell the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. Trump is regularly inciting political violence, and it's time people take him seriously. Just ask the Capitol Police officers who were attacked protecting our democracy on January 6th. That is an in-your-face response, which I thoroughly appreciated. But a more serious tip is you have a former president posting a picture of a current president in a violent situation in which, given some of his supporters, may actually go out and try to actualize that. So 2 parts. One, what accountability should Donald Trump and his campaign be held to on that? And 2, what, if anything, should Secret Service be saying to Trump as they would say to if I had posted that video or Simone had posted that video?
Yes, because the laws against making threats against presidential candidates apply also to presidential candidates.
Right.
Just because you're running for president doesn't mean that you can't be held accountable for violent threats you make. But the accountability, Michael, has got to be by the American people fundamentally. I mean, somebody could file a complaint against somebody, and we know that Trump will drag that out. But what we've got to see is that all the characteristics of an authoritarian or a fascist political party are right there now. Okay. Number one, they don't accept the outcome of democratic elections if they don't go their way. Number two, they embrace political violence or they refuse to renounce political violence as an instrument for obtaining political power and maintaining it. And three, they're organized around a cult of personality of a charismatic or allegedly charismatic political figure whose word is elevated above the rule of law and above the Constitution. So I think in the first instance, the political accountability must be directed at members of the GOP who have not fled for the exits, like Gallagher and Ken Buck, who are saying, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I've got a career. I got a family. I don't want to be associated with a political party that's going down in flames like that.
Good point.
I have one final question for you, Congressman. Some reporting this week from Politico about House Democrats pushing for a hearing on Jared Kushner's business dealings make the argument to me that even if Trump doesn't win a second term, this is still important if Democrats win the majority.
Well, the cardinal principle that was put in the Constitution that we haven't had to talk about much over the last couple of centuries is that it's not a money-making operation for the president. The president doesn't go into business, which is why we have the Foreign Emoluments Clause, which says that a president or any other federal official cannot accept a present and emolument, which means a payment, an office or a title of any kind, whatever, from a king, a prince, a foreign state, without the express consent of Congress. There's also a domestic emoluments clause, which says that the president is confined to his salary in office and cannot collect other money from the federal government or other kinds of sources. And of course, Donald Trump and his family say, oh, well, he didn't accept his government salary. I'm sorry, that's all you're allowed to accept. It's not like you can say, I'm not going to take my salary and I'm going to go on the payroll for the Chinese government or the Saudis or the United Arab Emirates. But that's what he did. And we've documented in our report, White House for Sale, $8 million of documented receipts that he got from foreign governments, which just scratches the surface because that was just for 2 years. It was just for 4 businesses out of more than 500 that we were able to get the data on. if he were, God forbid, to get back in, it would be all bets are off, a complete money-making operation, and he would loot the entire U.S. government, because we haven't even gotten to the domestic government side of it. So that's what we're talking about. This election is about two fundamentally opposed public philosophies. One says government has to be an instrument for the common good, the public interest of all the people, to advance the well-being of the people. The other says the government is a money-making operation. It is a for-profit business for the guy who gets in and his family. And that's what America's got to see here.
He's literally selling Bibles. It's crazy.